Shut
Oh,
this one
the other day,
I think that you're looking toward the chairman when
the other Dave was getting hollered at once instead of me. You ready, Scott? Okay. Being 5:30, we'll call to order this meeting of the Fitchburg Board of Public Works for March 18th, 2024, held in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chambers. We have a full quorum tonight, Alder Jetzer and myself, Dave Wilborn, Don is here, and Kim is attending via Zoom, okay? Public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't believe we have anyone signed up to talk, okay? So that takes us to agenda item 3, approval of minutes from March 4th. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move we approve March 4th, 2024 meetings.
Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. Discussion. Corrections, additions, changes. I'll give you a minute to ponder. Going once, going twice. Seeing none. Okay, then I'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval of the minutes from March 4th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Next, we are on to agenda item 4, report from the Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Volker, P.E.
Thank you. First up, I'll give a couple project updates regarding Phase 1 of the Sain Road reconstruction project. The signals at Sain and Lacey, the intersection, remain flashing. And we have a meeting scheduled for on-site on Thursday to kind of work through the last remaining issues. So we are on track to have those up and running by the end of this month. Next up is our 2024 street resurfacing project. We opened bids on Friday, March 8th, and Payne and Dolan was the low and responsive bidder for that project. Payne and Dolan's the same contractor we had in 2023. Our 2024 street maintenance project that's our crack filling and chip seal project. We're looking to have that advertised this month, along with our 2024 sidewalk replacement project. And then lastly, our library chiller project. We're looking to commence construction beginning of April. The contractor has been on site doing some minor work, but the majority of the work will commence that first or second week of April. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
Board members for Tim, questions?
No, not I.
The only question I had, not on the projects you did, it was probably a couple meetings back, we talked about engineering costs for, I think it was Fitrona. Did you ever find out road aids, what the township was getting? I know you're still negotiating the construction end of things, but it's...
Yeah, as far as what the town's getting, I don't know. Our finance director at one of our previous meetings sent a email about how the city gets our road aids, but as far as the town of Verona, I'm not sure.
Okay. Let me talk to my old counterparts at DOT and see if they got a way to track that down. Okay.
Yeah, it's based on lane miles, isn't it?
Yes, but I mean, they've been getting aids for so many years, it'd be worth the negotiation to say, okay, you've been getting this much, so.
Well, they haven't been using them on Fitchburg Road, I can tell you that.
That's for sure.
All the roads I ride with my bike, that is the worst, without question. Yeah, Don brings up a good point, Tim, I don't know where you are, if we have a contract with them yet we get to the construction cost sharing. But, I had a discussion with the mayor and they're intent on, well, we don't have any debt and so we're not going to incur any debt, so you're going to pay for the whole thing. The mayor mentioned, all right, we'll incur the debt and then you got to pay us back for your portion. I don't know if you've had that discussion with her.
Yeah, with the mayor internally, we've had several discussions regarding the construction and costs for Fitch-Rona. However, we haven't had the conversation yet with the town of Verona for that. Just for design, Goose Lake one of the projects that we're looking to award the design of the Goose Lake Stormwater Project. The town of Verona is contributing $50,000 towards the design, and then they'll also be contributing some additional funds for construction of that project too.
Okay. Well, if they continue to not want to pay anything, I guess when we do the road, we can close off the driveways on that south side. Put some pressure on them. I don't know. It's half their road if they. Half their road. Okay, thank you, Tim. I did have one question. Not that we are past snow plowing, we certainly could hit another snow plow, but any sense, did our equipment come through the year without a lot of breakage? Would we assume we don't have to come out and plow again, a major storm the rest of the year, which we could, but assuming we didn't, are we in pretty good shape going into next year, not having to do a lot of road work this winter?
Yeah, as far as repair work to the trucks, that's inevitable. We did have some breaks, I believe, the beginning of January. We did come forward with a budget amendment, I believe, in January to kind of move some funds because we hit that account pretty hard to begin the year. So if we kind of continued on that track, we'd be short by the end of the year. Yeah. So we just did a budget amendment to give us that cushion.
Okay.
As far as like salt usage, we're definitely under. Previous years it kind of keeps getting less and less. Part of that is to do with the weather and it not snowing as much, and also us being a little more efficient with the salt and monitoring the application of it to our roads.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Anything else for Tim? No. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Move on to our agenda items then. The first is 5 Alpha Resolution R 4824, adopting the 2023 Natural Resources 2016 Permit Annual Report. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
I'll move to approve.
R 4824.
I'll give Kim the approval and Bill the second. How's that sound? Okay. All right. So again, this is an annual report that we have to put together. It requires review by the city, and so this is kind of our opportunity. So I'll open it up to anything else you want to add before we hit you with questions, Tim?
Exactly what you said. This is for our Wisconsin DNR stormwater permit. It's a requirement every year for us to fill out this report. The report kind of includes public involvement, feedback components that we did throughout the year, inspections on our stormwater infrastructure, and also salt application to our roadways. So we're really just looking for approval of the submittal of this annual report to the DNR.
Yeah. Board members, any questions for? I'll just start with one. Who puts it together mostly?
So this would be put together by the city's environmental engineer, Ben Schulte, along with some information from Mark Hodel, our street supervisor, and also he oversees our stormwater infrastructure repair work.
Okay. Kim, you had a question?
Yep, I have a couple questions. On page 12 in our packet under the public involvement, where you talk about the estimated number of people reached, and these are probably not significant, and I don't know if they're just estimates, but on the volunteer opportunities, as I read through some of the rest of the permit, it sounded like more people had come out, to do the volunteer opportunities and to do some of the things. I was surprised the number of people outreached was only 11 to 50. It seems like sort of a low number. It seems like it should have been higher than that to me. And like I said, I'm not sure if that's critical to this whole permit application, but with all the things that we've done and all the newsletters and all the rest of that, it seems like you could, I don't know if there's a category, but you could at least be 50 to 100, it just seemed to me. But so that might be just something you looked at. I did have a question in the talking about what kinds of, in the what kinds of treatment you put down for snow removal. You had in there that beet juice was put down once. I was just wondering, was that like a test or an experiment, or why did we only do beet juice once?
The city has been utilizing beet juice for, I believe, several years now. It's mixed in with the salt brine solution. It's a little more environmentally friendly. So it was applied more than once throughout the year. I believe there was a volume listed for application of that in the report too. That's on page, let me just find it.
I was going to look up here. Salt,
While you're
brine,
looking that
beet
up,
juice. It was on, okay.
while you're looking that up, isn't that used more as a pre-treatment? Don't we use that more as a pre-treatment before the storm? At least that seems to be what I see on the interstate when they're.
Yeah, it can be utilized for that, and then also to help the salt stick to the road so it doesn't, blow off and get into the waterways and the environment that way. It activates the salt a lot faster.
It was on page 17 in our packet is where you talk about how many tons of salt, brine, and then beet juice was only used in January, and it had a 30. So I didn't know if that was something we typically did, if it was something we were just starting to do, or why it was only in January when you still had, over 9,000 tons in February and 5,000 tons in March of brine, that you had only used beet juice in January. It was just a curiosity on my part.
Yeah, and I can check with Mark Hodel on why just January that the beet juice was utilized and not the other months.
And
That was the one big storm.
Those numbers are gallons. So according to this, we used 30 gallons of beet juice for the entire season.
Correct. Because it's not
Oh, yeah, gallons.
the
yeah,
ratio
okay. Yeah,
of
brine, yeah.
salt to beet juice. The salt brine we use a lot more.
Yeah.
So if you go to,
Yeah,
I believe
okay.
the appendix. So the city pre-wets dry salt with a brine, a solution which is 80% salt water and 20% beet juice. So that's why you have more salt water being utilized, the gallons being higher because the beet juice is only a 20% ratio in that mixture.
Right, but still, if we use 30
Okay.
gallons total, that's like 150 gallons of solution.
But it's the beet juice doesn't get applied to every snowfall event.
My point is 150 gallons is enough to cover a driveway, right?
Yeah, we don't utilize a lot of the salt. It's just for pre-wetting to accelerate the effectiveness of the salt so as the salt's getting put on the road, it's getting sprayed with misters. The misters, it's not like a garden hose we're spraying it down with. Yeah. It's a mister.
Well, I guess, how many lane miles could 30 gallons of beet juice?
But again, we're not utilizing it on every event.
Right.
And we're not utilizing it. It's
like
just
a very
pre-wetting
low
it too. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's a mist.
Yeah. I was surprised it was just in January when I looked at how many gallons of brine were used in the other months that the beet juice. And I thought maybe it was just something we were trying to see how it worked. And I mean, maybe it doesn't work really well in the cold weather, which is, what we had for that one stretch where they, hardly couldn't even put out salt because it wasn't doing anything. But just a curiosity question on my part.
Would this have been January 23 or this January? Of this
It would have
year?
been January 23.
Oh, okay, that's different.
23, yeah.
Because we only had the one big storm here in January this year.
Oh, yeah.
Good point. That's
Okay,
what
that
20%
makes a
for.
difference too.
I
guess
can't remember what
from
January last year was like.
I was thinking January
I think
of
it
this
was mild.
year too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then I had one other question, and it is on page 20 of our packet. The post-construction stormwater management. Let's just see. Of course, now the amount, the first number was the annual expenditure was 84, basically 85,000. and you had budgeted 160, and next year you're budgeting 180. I was just wondering why the annual expenditure for that one was so low, and then you're continuing to raise the budget. I mean, like half of the budget from the year it was there, and even less than half of the upcoming year. Why that number was so low. The rest of them, what you used is pretty close to what was budgeted. Except for the post-construction stormwater management, that number stood out to me as being significantly lower, and maybe we didn't have as much to look at, but I was just curious as to why it was as low as it was, and then we were still upping the budget, 20,000 in the next year, and we didn't even use half of what we had this year.
And then, I guess to piggyback on that, if we skip down to the other section, it's a similar situation, 78,000 used out of 96,000, and we're budgeting 148,000. So we're,
In the other category, yeah.
right.
So with the post-construction stormwater management of 180,500, 8,000 of that is the oil filter replacement on our Lacey Road project. So we do that, or on Lacey Road, it's not part of a project, it's existing. We do that every year. The vegetative management is $122,500, and then a stormwater system consulting, that's a fee in case any engineering is required throughout the year of $50,000. So that remains constant. So the increase was due to the veg management. And I'll have to talk with Ben, our environmental engineer, to see specifically what increased with veg management, if we're just doing some additional areas in fiscal year 24 versus fiscal year 23. We had a lot of areas come online where the maintenance ends after 3 years and the city takes it over. So that number's going to keep increasing for the city to maintain the vegetative management for certain areas within the city.
Okay, it just might be something you might look at, why we spent only half, and then, like you said, maybe more areas did come online, and that's why you have to increase the budget. I just thought it looked funny that we didn't even spend almost half, or less than half, 60% of our budget for that year, and yet we're still increasing it. So that was all the questions that I had.
Tim, did we have, I think, beginning of, trying to remember when we bought our second street sweeper. I think we had 2 street sweepers all last year. Dave, do you recall that, or Don? I think we had, I was just wondering, the maintenance, we'd have higher maintenance costs and fuel costs with two street sweepers versus the one. I think we had 2 all of last year, the whole year.
Yeah, for most of the year we had 2. The disposal cost of the street sweepings has also increased. So the landfill where we take it to dispose of the debris we pick up from the road, it has increased.
That has to be landfilled? We couldn't pile it up somewhere and eventually have a sled hill for kids?
No, we could not.
Put tape, put clay cap on it to have a sled hill? Really? Mostly salt and dirt. All right. I was thinking outside the box. Any other questions on this?
Yeah, I had a
Go ahead, Bill.
question. So in section 5C, it mentions there's page 14 of our packet, 10 of 44 for that section. It mentions 138 private best management practices, and says it also says we don't use them in our pollutant reduction analysis. Back in December, we talked about our use of Windslam and how we're going to have another 115 BMPs to add to the 60 we've already got. Just wondering if you can say a few words about how this ties in.
Yeah, so in 2023, when this report is for the 138 private stormwater facilities, we didn't take credit for. So once we complete that Windslam model for our TMDL reduction, which will be completed this year, 2024, a year from now, when we bring forward the 2024 report, you'll see that box for 5B, or actually 5D, check yes, where we do take credit for that. So we do utilize privately owned stormwater management, BMP, in our pollutant reduction analysis. So that will be changed a year from now once we complete our modeling.
Okay, and it's, some of those 138 are the 115
Correct.
that we were talking about?
Correct.
And I presume some of them are too small to bother with, or?
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
One probably way too much in the weeds, literally, I guess. But on the page 33, the outfalls you had, number 13, it's a commercial one. It's got excessive vegetation, but it says it's got smell. And so is that just because of standing water and stuff, or is there,
Yeah,
is that a flag because it's a commercial?
most
outlet?
likely standing water, just being stagnant.
I mean, do we inspect if it's a commercial one and see if they're discharging something that shouldn't be discharged, or is that, how are we picking those up?
We inspect, so the city's broken up into 3 zones. So if you go to page 36 or 32 of 44 of the packet,
32, okay.
there's a map kind of showing the 3 zones and the outfall structures that get inspected. And so zone 2 was the focus of 2023. So those green dots are the ones, the outfalls that we inspected. And then the red ones were not inspected, just due to their size. They're very not large. So the green ones are 36 inches, are large stormwater outfalls that we looked at.
But do we check commercial outfalls differently than the other outfalls, residential ones?
No, any outfall is inspected the same, for pipe condition, regardless of whether it's commercial, residential, city-owned.
Okay, we're not picking up if there's something in the water. We're just looking at the outfall and the vegetation around it.
Yeah,
or
we do look at the
deteriorating.
water erosion around the end walls, debris buildup, kind of discharge flow, turbidity, if there's oil, sheen, or scum.
So I'm going to ask a devil's
So we
advocate.
really don't know what caused the smell? On that one, the only one that had a smell was that one, and we're not sure what it was, or that didn't generate any additional inspection or review?
Correct. No additional inspection or review.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask a devil's advocate question. There's someone much more detail-oriented and understands this stuff much more than I do, Mr. David Haith, who, is constantly telling me how poorly I'm running the stormwater utility, and I take quite offense at that. I think we run the best one in the state, frankly, but what in here should I be concerned about? Is there something, that say, all right, what would someone, beat me over the head about in this that maybe we're not doing or not doing well enough? I didn't come across it, but I just like to be prepared, because I would tell you I'm very proud of our stormwater utility and where we've come since we implemented it in 2012, and what we do. I think we do a great job protecting water in the area, and but again, I don't. I may be biased, so I'm always looking what emperor isn't wearing any clothes. Tell me, is there something that jumps out at you, or what would you say? What should we do? What should we do better? Or what could we do better that isn't going to double our rates? I guess is what I would throw at you. I think we're following best practices, and maybe your answer is, Dave, don't worry about it. Tell them. Nothing's coming to Tim's mind, so all right.
I mean, so the city has submitted this annually for the past, several years, I believe back since the Paul Woodard days, and
I've
we've
looked at
never
it every year.
received any comments or criticisms from the DNR when they've, when the city submitted it, they've reviewed it, and so I like you said, I think the city has done a pretty robust job of maintaining its stormwater system. Yeah, can you do stuff better? Absolutely. With time and resources as they become available, it's, the more we can do.
All right, thank you. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
That's right. I looked through this whole report just to see if there was anything that looked like a red flag, because I'd looked through these for a couple other entities, and I did not see anything that I thought this is going to raise a red flag and they're going to ask a question about it. I did think it looked pretty clean and it looked pretty thorough and accurate.
so Kim, is the format for another city that you reviewed one of these for, is the format pretty much the same? The DNR sets the format
It
for
is.
the report?
Yep,
and- Okay,
Yep, it's a form template basically that you have to fill in and answer the same questions for everyone, so.
all right.
I had another
Go ahead,
question. So in the report, it's got, salt use for November through March. I presume that's November 22 through March of 23? If this is the 2023 report?
No, it's 2023, so November of 2023.
Oh, so it's November and December of 2023 and January, February, and March of 2023? Even though
Correct.
they're laid out as November, December, it makes it look like it's a continuous time period. Regardless, in the report, if you add it up, we use like almost 1,200 tons of road salt. I'm just wondering, how does that compare with other municipalities? I don't know how you're supposed to measure that per lane mile, probably.
It's a tough one to ask Tim, since he came from Florida.
Yeah, right.
Right. Well, we would have to analyze the other cities. I don't know their road salt application or road miles. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, we don't have any idea how.
No, we don't. They may get a slightly less snowfall event than, it may be the same snowfall event, but less snow, more snow. There's a lot of variables that play into that, with temperature, the pavement temperature, precipitation, wind. So I don't know if it's an apples to apples comparison. I think what you kind of look at is just the city's application of salt over the years and how it's gone down. So we've added roads, and I spoke to Mark a couple weeks ago about our salt usage, because later on in this agenda item we have our salt contract that we're piggybacking with the state. And Mark's been doing it for 30 years for the city, and he's mentioned every year he's seen that the salt usage go down. So this year we ran our salt low just because of the salt shed rehabilitation project, so we didn't keep as much within the shed. And Mark was a little worried with how much was in there, but we made it through with salt to spare. Granted, we still have a couple weeks or maybe a month left, but it has gone down significantly compared to his early days.
I think our mechanism for spreading has improved since the metered on the trucks. I think the distributor adjusts with the speed now of the truck versus in the past. It probably turned at one speed whether you're going 30 or 5. So when they're slowed down, you're
Right.
ending up with a big pile at the intersection. Thank you for
I think
asking.
it mentioned in this report that they modified the calibration of how the salt was being delivered. Every year it gets better, but they're spending more time monitoring the calibration of how much they're putting down in certain areas and that kind of thing. And that is all improving with technology. I read that somewhere in this report too.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, thank you. My dad, I'm all for whatever we can do to reduce it, but I don't ever want us to end up like Milwaukee did this year with the storm, that people were, They were all.
Madison, it was Madison that they
Both of
complained
them.
about so bad.
Both of them, they were all bent on. Well,
Yeah.
Madison, I think it was just mismanagement by their mayor, but in Milwaukee, they had a group that, we're not gonna put salt down, we're gonna protect the environment, and it was dangerous for people. I was working over there, and streets were packed with ice, and it was undrivable, and a lot of it was, most of it was attributed to, they decided in those areas they didn't want to use salt, and I want to use as little as possible, but I think we have to have safety for our residents in mind too.
Right.
Thank you for asking the question though, Bill.
Yeah, it just, some interesting statistics. If you take those, 1,193 tons and convert them to teaspoons, and then every teaspoon can pollute 5 gallons of water, you come up with the astounding fact that we're polluting the volume of Lake Wingra every 2 years at that rate. And then, you wonder, how is this even possible, And then you dig a little further and you look at water softener usage, and it completely dwarfs road salt.
Yeah, talk to MMSD about that, yeah, yeah. And that's
Say,
all,
not all the salt that they put down makes it to the lake either, so,
yeah, a lot of it's in my yard when the plow,
yeah.
well, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
it
the
goes a
plow
lot of
throws-
other places other than directly to that pit.
Plow throws the snow in your yard, and so
Right.
it ends up there too. Yeah, okay. Any other questions? I just want to say thank you for the good report. I can tell some time was put in. It was very thorough, and I'm pleased to have such a positive report. Okay, so with that, we'll vote on the resolution. All in favor of Resolution R-4824, adopting the 2023 NR 216 permit annual report, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
It is approved. Next, we have Resolution R-4924, authorizing transit services agreement between City of Madison and City of Fitchburg. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve R-4924.
Moved by Don. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill.
I'll second.
Okay. He beat you on that one, Kim. You're on tape delay.
That's quite all right.
I'll try to.
Quite all right.
I'll try to remember that. Okay.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
fine.
So what is different between this and the agreement we had last year, kind of is the main question here in my mind. Tim, I'll let you kind of give us a recap on it first.
Sure. The City of Fitchburg contracts with the City of Madison Metro Transit for fixed route bus service and on-demand paratransit service. The current transit service agreement signed in 2022 causes delays in their auditing process. The paratransit costs can now be calculated more accurately, and the estimated costs in the contract have become outdated. So the City of Fitchburg, City of Madison, and the other partner cities met numerous times to establish a new agreement agreeable to all parties. The intent of this agreement remains the same as the previous agreement. The change from an operating reserve to a calculation using the cost of service and the audited share is due to the operating reserve causing delays, as I mentioned, to the City of Madison. And the new system is intended to operate in the same way as before. So we're looking for this agreement to cover service until December 2026, and it'll automatically renew unless otherwise modified. So we're just looking for authorization to sign the attached 2024 transit service agreement with the City of Madison, subject to technical corrections by the city attorney.
Okay. Thank you. Bill, I assume you've got some questions being a member on transit? Or maybe not. That was a pretty thorough explanation.
It was, yeah. Yeah, Ross explained it to us as well, and I think, 60% went over our heads probably. But, yeah, so it was kind of similar to tonight. The phrase operating reserve was thrown around, but unless you're an accountant, I'm not sure you know what the definition of that is. But it sounds like there was kind of a pot of money, and it's difficult to audit, and they're going with the actual cost of service, and then figuring out, okay, what's your share based on how many paratransit calls you did, or how many fare collection, whatever, so they can figure out each municipality's overall share of that cost pie.
It seems like a fair to all involved here is what I get.
Right.
Okay. Don?
A couple of three questions. One, I see the paratransit has changed. Did that increase our contribution cost? How they calculated it is now based on mileage instead of hours? Did that change what our contribution portion is? Do you know?
I do not believe it did.
Okay. And then, I don't want to be in too much of the weeds again on the details, but when they figure out our proportion of it, is that minus all the credits they get, either through FTA grants or state aid grants, and they do a lot of advertising on those buses, so they get contribution towards that. Is that all applied first, and then they prorate our bill, or do they take that credit and we don't?
I would have to check with Ross on that.
Yeah, can you, I'm interested in that too, they're they get all the grants. You get all the grants and they're still running 24 million in the hole, but I'd be interested in that question. I don't want to make a lot of time for you, but if we could.
And the city receives a grant for our service, so every year, we get a grant. The city applied for it back in December of 2023 for this year. So, I believe the system for us to run transit in the city is about 1.2 million, and we get an $800,000 grant, and the city out of pocket's around maybe $400,000. So we do apply for that grant through the state.
So we apply that grant towards our
Correct.
cost this year. Okay.
All right,
But we may not get credit for all the advertising they get.
that's quite possible. Quite possible,
So,
yeah.
and then is this agreement all get revamped when the BRT comes online, or is it the same agreement comes into play when those? I know it's a couple of years away, but
I would have to check with Ross on that.
okay. That's all I had.
Dave, Kim, questions? No. Okay.
Nothing for me.
Bill, anything else?
I guess just a comment for Don that, BRT right now is scheduled, or, they're planning on coming as far south as McKee Road, one block further on Brennan, so they can make a loop and turn around. But there's a possibility that the city of Fitchburg will try and get BRT all the way down here to the Civic campus. So if there is a change due to BRT, it might be more significant than you would otherwise have thought, or less, I'm not sure, because we're going to have to, if we bring it down here, most of the capital expense is going to be ours.
Thank you. Anything else? We'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R9424, authorizing transit service agreement between Madison and Fitchburg, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next on to agenda item 5, Charlie, Resolution R5024, approving the relocation order and TPP amendment number 1 related to reconstruction of Saline Road Phase 2, the north of East Sherrill Parkway to West Clayton Road. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move approval.
Moved by Bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Dave Wilborn.
I am recusing myself from this item and the next one.
Sounds good. Thank you. I was just going to ask.
I was going to ask if we should have Kim explain this instead of Tim.
All right, so the relocation order, is the relocation order and the TPP amendment two separate things, or is it the same thing?
It's for the same thing.
Okay.
So the city's 2023 capital improvement program included funds to reconstruct Saline Road, Phase 2, which is north of East Sherrill Parkway to West Clayton Road. The city adopted Resolution R-154-23 approving the relocation order and transportation project plat for the project. believe that was back in August or October 2023. And as part of the reviewing the utility impacts for the project, KL Engineering, the city's engineering consultant, noticed some additional details that needed to be included on the TPP. And there's 3 details for this one. The first detail was on sheet 4.04. We needed to add some existing AT&T utility lines that were originally missed. And then on sheet 4.05, we had to add an AT&T pedestal, and 2 lines were added. And then lastly, as part of the project, we had shifted a crosswalk at the intersection of Argus Lane and Sain Road. And as part of that shift, we had to obtain a temporary limited easement on parcel 28A. And those were the 3 changes that are being revised on the TPP.
When we do a project like this, did we have a clear map of where the AT&T facilities were? You know, as they put in all that fiber all over the place, I would have thought they would have had that marked like crazy, you know, that when we started engineering, you know, it would have shown up like flashing lights, you know, that don't cut our damn fiber, you know.
And I think these were just kind of easements that may have been missed during the title work originally.
All right, sounds good. Other questions for? All right. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 5024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have Agenda Item 5 Delta, Resolution R 5124, approving TPP Amendment Number 1 related to reconstruction of Sain Road, Phase 3, the north end, West Clayton Road to north of McCoy Road. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Moved by Bill. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Don. Tim, you're going to run us through what the amendment on this one is for.
Yes, so this is for Phase 3 of Sain Road, which is from West Clayton Road to north of McCoy. And the TPP was originally approved by the City Council through Resolution R-185-23. And on this TPP, we're just changing a utility number from 106 to 107. It was just inadvertently numbered. 2 utilities were numbered 106, so we just changed 1 to 107. A very minor change.
These are our utility things, or?
No,
Oh,
not the cities.
okay. It was mostly a print, a drawing and record keeping.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 5124, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have 5 Echo, Resolution R 5224, approving agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat of the 4th addition to Terra Vesa. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Tim. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. The fourth addition to Terra Vesa. What I would ask before we get into it, how many are we going to have? It's a big project. So agreement for the subdivision improvements. So is this at the point we haven't accepted? We haven't accepted the subdivision improvements. This is just the agreement, or have we accepted the improvements?
This is for the agreement.
Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. And how many units are we looking at, or how many in this phase, or approximately how many acres? I was just driving around out there yesterday, looking at, see what's coming.
As far as the additions, there'll be 5 additions, so this is the 4th. There'll be 1 more after this.
Okay.
And then as far as the acreage, I can pull that up on our GIS here.
Okay. While he's looking that up, I would just add, people, this is a very popular area. Their places are being sold as fast as they, kind of the Shangri-La of Fitchburg. If they had a shopping center close to there, it'd be the utopia. But
Yeah.
people really like living there. It's nice.
It's about 21 acres.
Okay, all right. Half a 40,
How many?
21.
21 acres.
Okay.
Thank you.
In section 3.02, park improvement fees, it talks about the proposed 109 single-family units.
Thank you, Bill. 100. So as any of you have gone out there and looked, it is a mix. It's a mix of single-family, multi-unit, it's it's not just all apartments, all houses, it's certainly a mix, kind of something for everyone, depending on what they're looking at. All right, anything abnormal in this agreement?
Yeah, that was going to be my question. What is different than the standard agreement that you personalized for this area?
So if you go to Exhibit C, you can kind of see Phase 1, where the roadway is outlined. So within that area, the sewer is going to be extended to connect gravity-wise. And most of this is fed by gravity sewer, where the rest of Terra Vesta is to the lift station. So phase 2 is going to go and follow that road to the north and be gravity fed to MMSD.
Oh, so there's some of it there is an interceptor for some of it. Okay.
Correct. So that's unique to this project.
Okay. Like that even better. Why didn't they start with that? All right. Thank you, Kim. That was a good question. Anything else on this?
I'm wondering, again, we have one final addition on here. In the growth and development plan, and maybe it's with the planning, have we figured out if it's going to blow up the main line road? I mean, they're building all the infrastructure within there, but they're dumping a lot of cars on, is that Sain?
MM.
Is that going to,
Double M.
or double M rather, is that going to goof up double M that it has to be redone?
No, as part of the planning process, that the traffic was looked at, the impacts from this. So it was determined not to.
So we're not blowing it up so that you need extra lanes, but they're putting turn lanes in and that type of thing?
The infrastructure is already out there that's going in.
What about on the other side?
There were some modifications made. There were some modifications made to that intersection at MM and McCoy with the turn lanes and with the signal that this development accounted for, or the traffic from this development was accounted for when the design was done on that.
Okay.
Good question.
How long before Sain's going to be too narrow to handle all that traffic coming from this development when it's finished?
Hopefully when I'm dead and gone in the ground a long time.
I'm just stating the point.
I know. Yeah. We'll look at other options if we get to there.
It's going to be heavy.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this? Okay. Call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 5224, approving agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat of fourth addition to Terra Vesta, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have 5 Foxtrot, Resolution R 4324, approving purchase of salt for 2024-2025 season. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve R 4324.
I'll second.
Moved by Don, second by Dave Wilborn. Discussion, or how many tons are we looking at here?
I was going to ask, it said 1,000, but in our MS4 report, we used almost 1,200, so I was wondering about that.
Where did you see 1,000?
It's in the agenda packet. Let's see if I can find it again.
So in the pre-approval for purchasing the salt, when we had budgeted back in
It's on page 130 of our packet is where it says 1,000 ton of salt.
Right, so the city had budgeted $97,000 to purchase salt in 2024, and we had assumed purchasing 1,000 tons at $97 a ton. And that number is going to vary depending at what the contract comes in at. So we had to assume how much it was going to cost, and we'll spend up to $97,000. Just because we're purchasing 1,000 tons doesn't mean we're going to go through 1,000 tons. Our salt shed can hold 1,000 tons, and then also we have the old salt shed can hold an additional 500 tons. So right now, as I mentioned before, we had our salt shed rehabilitation project, and we have about 500 to 600 tons on hand. So this summer, we'll probably purchase 500 tons to fill up our salt shed. And then come January of 2025, we'll purchase some more salt. And it all depends, too, on the rest of this year, how much it snows and how much it snows November, December. So that's just kind of our ballpark.
So I'm assuming the salt is delivered in dump trucks?
Correct.
Okay. Are those 20-yard trucks? I'm just going to get it. How many, is it steady stream? I think the salt comes from a mine under Lake Huron, if I remember right.
The company that has the contract currently is Compass Minerals. I'm not quite sure where they're based out of or what size trucks, but it is numerous trucks that are coming in and delivering the salt for us.
I think it's coming out of it's a mine under Lake Huron. That's where the salt is coming from. Is what I think, yeah. Right. Any
So
questions?
basically, this resolution is just allowing us to attach onto the state agreement, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 4324, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next, announcements. Our next Board of Public Works meeting is Monday, April 1st. Is that true or is that a joke?
It's true.
It's true, okay. All right. Okay. April 1st, April Fool's Day. Okay. If you can't make it, please let me know. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Moved by Dave, second by Don. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Aye.